Well, the battle for beautiful North Queensland is the focus for both state leaders as their election campaigns enter day 10. Today, Scott Morrison returned to Queensland's campaign trail, joining Deb Frecklington and Townsville, helping power up her pitch to voters. Let's bring in my panel for their analysis. Sky News host of Across Australia, Peter Gleeson in Mackay. God help us, I can't even leave home and you're in beautiful Mackay. Radio 2GB broadcaster, Sky News host, my good friend Chris Smith from Sydney. All right, Gleeson, so tease us with your beautiful road trip around Queensland. You've been out there doing forums, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm keen to know some of the topics that people are talking about, but as you're getting around the main streets of these places, what's the mood like?
Well, the mood is very clear, and that is that North Queenslanders are fed up with the crime problem that's presented itself here over the past 5 years. They blame the Palaszczuk government for particularly youth crime. Now, of course, the Palaszczuk government contenders here, the participants, the candidates are saying, oh, well, the LNP have cut police. But it's not a policing issue, Peter. This is all about bail conditions, it's all about bail legislation, and it's all about the revolving door policy that comes with allowing youth crime to flourish. So that's one of the issues. The other issue, of course, is COVID. Now, in North Queensland, COVID has hurt from an economic perspective. And when I talk about the economic perspective, I'm talking about the fact that draconian impositions around lockdowns and border controls are hurting places like Cairns, the Whitsundays, that's where I am today, in the Whitsunday region, and it's hurt badly. The problem is, Peter, that there are 4 or 5 seats up for grabs up here, but the word out of the ALP headquarters is that southeast Queensland will be a sea of red come October 31, because their polling is suggesting very clearly that mums and dads and families in the southeast have given the Palaszczuk government a big tick for keeping them safe, because they're looking on at what's happening in Victoria and saying there, but for the grace of God go I. So there are 2 components to this election. The first is the southeast and what happens there, and the second is central and North Queensland. The other area, Peter, I think that's really important for central and North Queensland, how will the miners react? Will they go the same way they did at the last federal election, where they abandoned Bill Shorten because of his mealy-mouth comments in St Kilda compared to Gladstone, or will they traditionally stick with the Labor Party, which they have in the past?
Just a quick one before I bring in Chris in, because I want to go to the ICAC stuff in Sydney today, but how much is the budget and the red ink and, you know, the debt burden of Queensland, the economic story, how much is that playing out? Or are they getting a leave pass because of COVID for the last 2 terms of the Palaszczuk government?
You've hit the nail on the head, Peter Credlin. They are getting a leave pass, not just on the budget, but on child safety, where they've buggered that up. Integrity woes. We don't have a deputy premier. We don't. Sorry, she's gone to the backbench because of integrity woes. The economy. I mean, unemployment is the worst in the country here. You know, the Labor Party says it's all about jobs, jobs, jobs. No, they've abandoned jobs here in Queensland. But you know what? This is a referendum on COVID. This is all about, and that's the message that the Premier, every day she's getting out there. I kept you guys safe, and the good folk of Queensland are buying it.
We'll see. Still a bit to go. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Okay, let's go down south. Goodness me, it's just one woe after another, isn't it? DARYL MAGUIRE in the ICAC again today, Chris. Second day, lots of pressure, allegations of corrupt dealings. It's all played in a very public domain, of course, because his involvement now that we've heard about in relation to the Premier. 5 years, the relationship. Let's have a listen.
Were you in a close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian?
Yes. Yes.
Are you still in a close personal relationship with Ms. Berejiklian?
Oh, not after the events of this, I wouldn't be. No. We're always good friends, but it was on again, off again.
Not after the events of this, I wouldn't be. Chris, I reckon that's pretty truthful.
Yeah, she'll be lucky to ever see him again, I would have thought, especially if he ends up behind bars after these investigations and the subsequent trial. One of the things that I can't understand is how this bloke was allowed to run amok for so long in the state parliament. He was opening doors to chief of staffs, opening doors to ministers, all to push his own barrow. It was almost as if his parliamentary role was secondary to his role as a businessman for developers and Chinese contact. To think that this would happen in the year, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015 is just an appalling reflection on the state parliament and, I guess, the fact that we thought we had a clean New South Wales after so many inquiries. But I think Gladys Berejiklian needs to stand aside, Peter. I think the noise is too great. I don't think, although there's a lot of sympathy for her, I don't think she can get away from the fact that she heard far too much from this bloke about his wrongful dealings, his corrupt dealings, and didn't say anything about it for a long, long time. And I just get the feeling she could step aside like Neville Wran, still be able to come back once the ICAC hands down its findings. I think it's the only way for the government to continue governing, because they're getting no clear space.
Yeah, it's pretty tough though, isn't it, for a Premier to step aside? I mean, it's also pretty tough for a Premier to go without a finding of guilt either. I mean, it's a very difficult place, ICAC, in the political climate, I think, in New South Wales. I have no issue with these integrity hearings, but I think they should be in camera or, held privately. Ministerial oversight and parliamentary oversight so people can see justice being done. But I think when you air all of this sort of stuff and at the end of the process someone is found not guilty, the reputations are ruined. Yeah,
very, very true. And there have been so many examples of that. I know Alan has been highlighting this for about 3 nights in a row here. So many examples where people have been left out to dry, no apology, no compensation, no correcting of the record. Look, it's not going to be the case with Daryl Maguire because he's virtually put his hand up to so much. But let's just hope we don't lose another Premier, like we did Barry O'Farrell in New South Wales over a bottle of grog. And now we're going to lose something over, his girlfriend, who did not act on what he was doing, but at the same time cannot be charged with colluding with him or empowering him to do these activities. That is not the evidence. She is not corrupt.
I tell you what, if she loses a job in New South Wales, there's plenty of people in Victoria who'll pay her air flight to come down here. We wouldn't mind a Premier that knows how to handle
maybe a clean swap.
Yeah, not going to kill everybody. Wouldn't that be nice? She can come down here. I want to go to this issue of the Indigenous flag. It was debated, as you know, a couple of months ago. There's a parliamentary inquiry underway, or it's just concluded, a Senate inquiry into whether or not there should be the acquisition of the copyright in the flag. It's owned by the artist, an Indigenous man, and he has sold on that copyright or put the lease out to a whole range of companies, which upsets a lot of people, a lot of Indigenous people. But he's the owner of the copyright. That's his legal right. So the debate's been, should the Commonwealth step in? Well, the report has come out. The Senate Select Committee on the Aboriginal flag, well, they've recommended, no, the Commonwealth shouldn't buy the flag, but they should use negotiations already underway with a different copyright holder for a different sort of model. Chris, how do you think this will play out?
I think this is all wrong. I think the Aboriginal community should cop some flack for the fact that this has been allowed to go on for so long. I also think the taxpayer has had a gutful of forking out when things just fall over. Like, look at the negotiation involved here. This bloke is negotiator, all right? The Australian taxpayer has no foot to stand on. He could ask for $10 billion tomorrow. Like, it's just ridiculous. How about we say to the Aboriginal community, it is a great flag. Yes, it's a great flag. How about you design a new one and let Harold Thomas keep his old one, have a new one, keep it within the Aboriginal fraternity and move on. Just like we've changed the Australian flag over the decades, let's do the same with the Aboriginal flag. I don't want taxpayers to pay for it.
Well, I don't want taxpayers to pay for it, because the moment they do, it will then become a rival to the one and only national flag a country should have, right? So that's my opposition to it. But, Glee, so there's plenty of philanthropists out there. If they want to do a good deed, they could. And there's plenty of, wealthy Aboriginal sportsmen and women, artists, etc. They could all group together, buy the flag and gift it to the Aboriginal people. There's plenty of land councils with plenty of money, as you well know, up north. They could buy the flag and gift it to the Aboriginal people. I think that's the way to go.
Twiggy Forrest. I mean, there it is, Twiggy.
Great idea.
There's a challenge for you, mate. I mean, I don't know how much he's worth, Twiggy. I think the latest count was 11 or 12 billion. I mean, if they're asking 10 billion, maybe Twiggy. But you know what? I agree. Chris Smith has absolutely nailed it. There are bigger fish to fry when it comes to challenges for the Aboriginal communities than worrying about the flag. We need to delve into the problems they've got with domestic violence, the problem they've got with sexual assault. We know that they're, over-representation in jails and so on. I mean, having this debate about the flag is a sideshow. It's sideshow alley. Let's get into the fair dinkum issues before we worry about, coming up with $1 million in coin for a flag. I think it's a sideshow.
Hear, hear.
Well, it won't be $1 million. It'll be a hell of a lot more. But I can understand the emotion that they have, Aboriginal people have in that flag. I understand that, but I don't think it's a matter for the Commonwealth. Gentlemen, great to see you, Gleeson. You're teasing me with that beautiful scenery behind you. It's not fake, it's real.
Yeah, we hate you, Gleeson. We hate you.
It's real.
Peter Gleeson, Chris Smith. Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
See you soon. All right.